It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Oh, I wasn't connected to the thing. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. I did not know. So I'm going to start over again. All right. So thanks everybody for showing up. Working on NFTs and figuring out what they are. And I was just opening up some software. So you got to basically miss me just saying nothing while I was opening up some software. So as I'm opening it up here, I am going to click on this and this and this, and then that'll give us the screen on the screen, I believe. Boom. So what I was trying to say before, and you didn't hear any of it, is that in order to describe what we're talking about here, I was going to make a video, but it takes a long time to make a video, and I didn't get it made. So I'm going to see if there's a way to just play it here in its raw form. What does this button do? No. So we're just going to, I don't know if there's a way to just play it. All right, we're just going to do it this way. I don't think there's a way to just play the whole thing.
Well, we're creating our first NFT this week, so we're introducing the topic and the reason for our project. Now, the NFT, as far as I can tell, is a newfangled internet thing. You buy them with cyber money, and that's the whole point. Most people have no clue about these things. They're quickly growing. A lot of people think that those will replace the systems we use today. So this project is an attempt to educate and bring awareness to this new concept to our firearms community and our industry. Why? Well, the folks who pay attention to these things tend to agree there is a change on the way. They just can't agree on when it'll get here. So let's take a look at what the future of business online might look like today before we hit Internet 3.0. So as phones moved to cell phones and then smartphones, and we moved from cash to credit cards, and we had to take steps to use those credit cards online with eBay and PayPal, then with now our smartphones, wouldn't even think twice of doing this, right? Remember back to when that was something you had to be talked into. People had to do it first before you figured it out. And now people pay $1 for a hat on their video game character on their phone, right? So that's all we're talking about is the evolution of how we do things. One of the things that people agree is going to be next is this whole Bitcoin and cyber money. So let's get started with it. Bitcoins are cyber currency. They're sort of like chips at a casino, or think of them maybe like the credit cards at a bank. The chips or credit cards have no real worth other than their role as a token for the casino or the bank, right? We use these tokens, these chips, these credit cards to do all kinds of things. We buy goods and services. We use them wisely, right? Some people use them foolishly. Some people use them illegally. But they're used for all different kinds of things. Well, now online, we can use cyber currency to buy things and sell things, and millions of other people are already doing this. The big difference is there's no banks here. This is decentralized. This is just a bunch of code that's set up to run the whole system, and it runs on so many computers it really can't fall down. So imagine a flock of birds rather than a single aircraft. So that's why the banks don't dig it. The banks aren't in control anymore. Now, that means there's not a help desk to call, so it's a different way of doing things, but so was credit cards, and so was the concept of leaving your money at your gold at the desk and using a token in the casino, right? It's that same concept. You're using something to take the place for something else while you're in the market. And if you went to one casino, they'd use one type of coin or token, and if you went to a different casino, they'd use a different coin or token, and they weren't necessarily going to accept each other's coins, each other's tokens. And that's the system we have today, where there's different coins with different names, and different markets accept and don't accept these different coins. That's where we get to the cyber coin situation that we have today. So now what do we do with it? Well, this is in the early life cycle of this whole technology, so we're only seeing limited use of this technology and the applications that are even open to it. But as we understand it, its advantages and its weaknesses, we'll see how established it becomes. And while nobody can see the future, again, many suggest this is an inevitable direction for the whole internet to take based on trends and indications of all kinds. So with that in mind, we're finally getting to what these NFTs are. I think of the NFT as like a digital certificate. It's associated with a file usually and can be purchased with cyber currency. And that's really the whole point of our project, is let's do something that we can all get, something we can buy with cyber currency. It's just a token, a thing. And that's perfect, because that's what an NFT is. It's a digital certificate of authenticity that we can wrap around a token. So let's talk about how powerful that can be after we talk about how folks are using that today. So today, most NFTs are associated with a file, some kind of art, an image, a song, or a video. However, that's just the surface of what NFTs could or will be used for as this whole area develops. So where can this go? An NFT bought with cyber money could be associated with things like a house, a car. So if you NFT a house and then offer it for sale, someone could buy it with cyber money, no banks or any additional bank fees or any of that stuff, or maybe a service, right? It's interesting, and it's a new concept for sure. So let's see how it works, and let's see what kind of potential it has before it's in front of us, or before everybody else is figuring it out. All right, so to create them, you have to pay a fee, and then there's fees to buy and sell them. So they're not free, and that's why a lot of people are concerned that there's scams going on and paying outrageous fees and that kind of thing. So like any kind of anything, you have to be aware, you have to shop around, and you have to understand the particular markets. But in the general concept, you pay a fee to create the thing, and then there's a fee to transfer the thing. And that's where they can be interesting. They can be held as an investment, and that's how a lot of the art things that are happening today are being purchased and held onto, although some of them are being transferred over and over and creating more value each time they're bought and sold, but also generating income for the person who created them. So unlike a typical piece of art, for example, or a typical thing like a car, which gets sold once and then each subsequent buyer makes all the profit and loss, NFT offers an arrangement where the original creator can still get some residual income each time the item is passed along, which is an interesting opportunity for our industry and for the advocates and organizations out there that, again, are always looking for new and interesting ways to keep a level of income so they can work on their projects. All right, so there's certainly a lot of people using them in different ways. So to keep up to date, what we're going to do, or to get in started, what we're going to do is create one here. We'll do that live. We'll get it set up and get it going, and then we'll, once it's created and if it's sold, we'll show the process to inform and hopefully inspire others. Keep up to date with this. In the description, we'll have links to part 2. And if you have any questions, of course, leave them here, wherever you happen to find the video.
All right. So like I said, I didn't finish the whole thing. I kind of edited the beginning there, and that takes way too long. I don't like making that kind of video. So that is a synopsis of what I was going to say, though. That's basically the audio track of what I was going to do. I just didn't make it into a fancy video. But now you get a little behind the scenes, how much of a pain it is to make a video. All those little, all those little pink things are pictures and images that you have to give them frames of reference and tell them to move around and stuff. So anyway, you get an idea. That's what the concept is for what we're talking about today and the project. So as I did, I guess I don't need to screen capture. As I did a little bit of research on what these NFTs are, I found out that they're nothing much very difficult at all. They're really just a factor. The difficulty in understanding them, I believe, is a factor of the fact that people are capitalists and they want to sell you something, and they're going to market and bank on the fact that everybody's not familiar with this stuff yet, and the people that are don't need to be explained to, so they're just off and doing it. So I've made a video there, and it kind of attempted to explain what I'm aware of. I'm no expert on these things, but just from doing half a day's worth of research, I was able to get a lot more clarity and understanding about what these things are and their role in the future, and for our gun community going forward. So with that, I'll leave it up there. We are watching this live. I tried to ask some people in to join me live. I guess they weren't able to. So don't have any experts here who might know more about it, but you're the experts on what we're doing out here. And so what I'm planning on doing is starting an NFT. I do need to get some expert advice, mainly because, as I mentioned, there's different markets, right? There's different places where you can get these coins, or where you can kind of set up shop to do stuff in the cyber realm. Cyber is just a fancy way of saying non-centralized. So when traditional things happen, right, you've got your traditional system, and then you've got website or database or something, some kind of computer system that runs it, and then you've got security around that, and you've got a bunch of effort to update and maintain that infrastructure and to secure it. People have access to it, and they use it, and it develops and it changes. An alternative way to do that, to accomplish something similar, would be to decentralize it and have a flock of birds do the same work as an airplane. Does that make sense? To have the task chopped up into pieces and have it distribute the load or the weight amongst others. I already did. He didn't show up. So the distributive computing concept is basically this Web 3.0, this concept of change into where the infrastructure is different than it was. And the differences in real life will be minimal, I suspect. We're not going to see websites go from circles to squares or something. Like, it's not going to change things from blue to green. It's just going to change the structure behind everything that we don't really pay attention to anyway, and make it a little bit more difficult to damage or to hurt, I guess, like, for a little more durable things. But in the process, it'll change quite a few things. And in the big hurdles, like always, are technology. Some of the technology required to do these kind of projects are lots of computing power. And as they're able to redistribute that computing power, that's a leap. That's a plateau, or a rung, or a hurdle, or whatever you want to say. That's like a place that'll take us to a next place. And that's coming soon. This change in technology will allow the next level of these blockchain or these non-distributive software package type of things to take a whole nother level. And that's where, when that happens, we'll see a bunch of people go, oh, that was the blockchain bubble or something. They'll call it something, and they'll say that's when a whole bunch of people made money, and that's when a whole bunch of things changed, and that's when a whole bunch of people had to go to school to learn new things. And it's the same way when we all started using credit cards online. Did something actually happen? Did websites look different? Not really. They just had more functionality. We used the internet differently. Eventually, it allowed for things like Amazon and eBay to happen, PayPal and all those kind of places. it was a different internet before all that, right? It's going to be a different internet after all this stuff. So in an effort to get aware and to participate and to help let our community figure out what's going on here so that our community isn't the last ones to use this whole stuff, or to be led by just a few individuals who happen to have, some ties to some portion of it. Let's just start using it. And one way to use it is, like a lot of people are using it, to create an NFT, that concept, that non-fungible token, to take that token and wrap it around something that we're all familiar with. So a JPEG, and a sound file, a video file, so an image, a song, or a music, or a podcast or something, or a video. Obviously, the different things a video could be. Those are pretty common things for people to wrap an NFT around. That creates a unique instance of that thing, and therefore it can create value. It can start to create value or have value. So that's one thing. A lot of people just create them, and then since anything that has value has the potential to gain in value or have the potential to lose in value, or it has the potential to fluctuate, there's potential for investment or for to hold on to it. And so some people are doing things with those first NFTs that way, but that's in no means the only way to do it. So we're going to try to create one that's just designed to do one, because you got to do one as your first one, and we'll make that one be the plain old one. And then we'll make a second one be more like a like the I don't want to say musical chairs, like the baton, I think Clover called it. So the second one will be something that gets passed along, and the person who possesses it at the time will have some extra ability during one of our podcasts or something. So we're going to make that one something that gets moved around, designed to be moved around, and designed to show that NFTs don't have to be what you're familiar with them being, what others are using them for only. Let's see. I am at home and live, so thanks. I guess there's some kind of news happening where somebody got hurt in a van, and it's not me. So I'm sorry to hear that. Vans are good stuff. Usually people that drive vans are cool, so sorry to hear that. But I got distracted. I'll go back to Kingpin's thing here. So an NFT is a way to make money online. If so, can the money come off the web? NFTs are, I think, one of the ways to describe them are like the colors on the video game. So they're playing this new video game now, just came out, and you can change the color of your little dude that you run around with in the video game. It doesn't give you any more hit points or any more power or any more bullets or anything else. It just changes the color of the skin on the dude so that he's green instead of blue or whatever. And of course, the kids are going to pay for that because they want to be green or blue or whatever. Or if you've played the Angry Birds and you pay the extra $5, I forget what that does, makes the bird fatter or something. It's that kind of thing. So an NFT is just a power up. It's a thing. I mean, that's one way to explain it, I guess. An NFT could be a house. It's the certificate. So it's what you wrap the NFT around. But I guess you could say an NFT is just the way to pay for whatever it is you're talking about. So if we're talking about putting a skin on a video game character, that concept is like the NFT. That instance on the internet is unique, and that makes it, well, if you set it up to be an NFT, it would be an NFT. So is an NFT a way to make money? Sure, it definitely can be, but that's like saying, are credit cards a way to make money? Well, yeah, I guess, but you're making your money making a product, and then people use the credit cards to buy the product. You make your money with a service, and people use a credit card to provide the service. So an NFT can be used to make money for sure. And most people that are using them are to make money or to transfer funds or something. But I suspect there's going to be a lot more uses of them once the tech to make them possible is cheaper. Because right now the NFT, the thing that's stopping, let's say if I wanted to sell you a peanut butter sandwich for a nickel, and you were like, oh, that sounds like I could eat that for a nickel. And I'm like, the only way I'm going to let you pay for it is with an NFT or something. So then you go, okay, let's do that. Let's use cyber money to sell this to me. Well, it would cost like what, $100, let's say, to make it an NFT, and then that makes it impractical to sell you a peanut butter sandwich that way. If it cost us a fraction of a penny to make the peanut butter sandwich into an NFT, then it would be like if I sold you the peanut butter sandwich on PayPal, and you went, oh, okay, I have a PayPal account also. We don't really care what the electronic method of how PayPal pays us. We just know that when you put $1 into PayPal, you can transfer it to me, and I can take $1 out on my end. It's not really a bank. PayPal isn't a bank. It's not a casino. It's a separate thing. It's an online entity. And it's similar to that analogy, I think. So is it a way to make money online? Yeah, but it's not its only issue, and it's not the only thing it can do, but I think that's what's going to be the most of it for a while. And so could the money come off the web? Yeah, so an NFT is that thing that's online, like the power up or the color of the suit or the skin for the media player or something like that. It's just a thing. You got to pay for that somewhere. So they'll either set up a cart or some kind of a store or something, and you'll use something to pay for it. And since you can't just shove quarters onto the internet, you'll have had an account somewhere to create cyber coins. And then depending on the market or whatever it's called, like the bank, the casino, whatever you want to call that area that you're going to pay in, the method you're going to use to pay, they'll have like a list of coins that they'll accept. And that would be like going to like, oh, you need casino, coins from that casino. So let me do a trade or let me do a transfer. At least that's the way I understand it. So if you had X amount of coins of this and I'm selling an NFT in those coins, then you would either trade over to those coins or find somebody else selling an NFT in your coin. I think that's how it works. So how do you get the coins off the web? Well, then you would just find out where you get your coins from and do the opposite and turn it back into money. I'm not 100% on all that, and I'm certainly not selling you anything, and that's a big difference, I think, between what I'm doing, this project, and others. I'm not working for nobody. I don't care which one you use and all that. I'm just doing this as an exercise and showing what an NFT is, learning it at the same time we're explaining it. So those places where you get the cryptocurrency, that's something that we're going to learn. And I'm not going to suggest where you go because I don't even know yet. I just know the concept. So we're going to find out. I'll find out and share, I guess, because I'm not getting any help here. But my goal was to bring some people in and knew what they were doing, and then to together figure out where the places are. You do that interchange between regular money and cryptocurrency. And then whatever little dance or trades you have to do to move one type of cryptocurrency over to another in order to fit the right type into the NFT you might want to purchase, or to figure out how to set up an NFT that potentially could take more than one coin. And I think that might be a thing too, depending on where you build your NFT. It might be able to accept more than one or a group of types of coins or something. The video game explanation right on. So that's what kind of clued it for me too. As soon as somebody said it's like buying a color of a thing on Angry Birds, like I went, oh, okay, this is just a power up, how much you spend. It's that kind of concept. But it doesn't mean that the thing you're buying is trivial. It just means that the NFT is just the triggering of the interaction. The NFT is the thing that allows cyber currency to go back and forth because there's no store. There is no place that we can go. There's no mall in cyberland like there is on the internet right now. We could go to Amazon, but Amazon doesn't take crypto as far as I know. So there's no markets to go exchange goods and services with crypto. So an NFT is a step in providing that, from what I understand. So you wrap the NFT around things, or the NFT is just a thing itself. Pretty much you wrap the NFT around something though. So the NFT is more of a certificate of authenticity about the object you're buying. So the NFT is what you're buying, yes. And the NFT can be associated with something. So if you associate the NFT with a house in real life, then you're buying that house through an NFT. Just like a credit card isn't the car you buy, but if you bought your car with a credit card, then I guess, yeah, you bought your car with a credit card, but you really bought it with all the money that the credit card indicates. Does that make sense? So the NFT is sort of like the credit card transaction. It's not the credit card. It's just the way of doing the transaction. And it's the concept of, it's not like an actual, left-handed turn or, this series of code. It's just the concept that NFT is something it's non-fungible, token. So that just means that it's unique and can be transferred, and it's in this blockchain. And I think a lot of this, when you start to ask the specific questions, I don't remember me personally ever asking like, how does PayPal work, or like how does it happen that I can be able to use my credit card online and it's not going to get stolen? You know, I guess I did learn a little bit of that when previous versions of career here, where I had to touch into those areas, but only enough to like generally be told we're doing it this way instead of that way. You know, we're using VHS instead of beta. I didn't need to know how the VHS worked. I just need to know we were using VHS instead of beta. And I needed to know we were using a cassette tape instead of a CD-ROM. I didn't need to know how those devices worked. That's kind of what we're dealing with here. People who are in this new realm definitely know how the cassette tape works. And if you ask them, they're a bunch of nerds. So they're going to start telling you all about how the internal workings of a cassette tape are, when what they probably should be doing is telling you what you can listen to, telling you that you can also use that cassette tape on your Apple too, to put a software program on. You're not just going to listen to tapes on there. You might want to record a bunch of music off the radio and give that to your sweetie as a mixtape, right? Like there's a lot of things you can do with a cassette tape that a nerd is only going to tell you how the cassette tape works. And a lot of times what we're dealing with now is these people that built the whole NFT stuff, or they built these little areas, or they're building things in this concept of non-centralized, and they can only tell you how it works. They understand that there's going to be a lot of interesting ways people use it, but they're not the Steve Jobs. They're not out there seeing people with these in their living rooms and using NFTs to transfer properties like cars and banks, or cars and houses without banks, which is what we're probably looking at if the internet switches over to decentralized. If the internet switches to a decentralized thing, or at least there's decentralized options, then this would be like the first people that were purchasing something on PayPal and they were buying art from each other on PayPal. People would say, oh, PayPal is for selling art. Well, no, it's for selling anything. It's just that people happen to be doing only art on it. So that's what I'm going to try to do at the NFT is we're going to do the first one. It'll be art. It'll be something that's just a thing people can buy. There's one of them or something, and it's just there because you got to start somewhere. And I want the first one to be a standard thing like that, one thing. The second one we're going to play with immediately, and that one will be, let's say that you had 10 things that you create, 10 widgets or whatever, and you have 10 of them. 9 of them are just going to go on the shelf at some store and be sold. So that means somebody has to walk into that store and find them, right? If you put that 10th one on eBay, then everybody who goes online to eBay can find it and potentially buy it, right? Well, we wrap the NFT around one of them, and then that one is just for the rest of time has a special uniqueness to it that there's this trail online or in the cyber world. There's a digital kind of token attached to it. And from now on, you'll be able to trace who's owned it and how much money it's created. And like I keep saying digital certificate, it's adding some characteristics to the item because it's a digital certificate that enhance its, not just its value, but enhance what it can do. Like, if you had a painting like Mona Lisa or whatever the item is that you're selling and buying, if that thing had a little attached piece to it that had a receipt of everyone who's ever owned it, that's a little different than just knowing it's the Mona Lisa, because now it's the Mona Lisa that was owned by this king for a while and that queen for a while and this person for a while and that museum for a while. And that would all just be in the label. That's sort of what we're talking about here. Like part of the thing is its history and its worth and that kind of stuff. So just an interesting way we're going to be playing with stuff going forward. And when we're talking about the firearms industry, we're talking about credit cards pushing us around, and banks and stuff giving us less attention than other things, depending on what we're doing out there. And it's just neat to see, it's interesting to think of the concept of having a non-bank or a way to transfer funds that's secure and doesn't require a bank with an agenda to determine whether or not we're okay to do business out there. And obviously that is just one characteristic of it right now that seems appealing to us right now. I'd much rather see the Overton window change and to quit the marginalization of all firearms owners as if we're somehow criminals, right? That needs to change. And this isn't a solution to that, but it is because of our scenario, because of our situation right now, it is an option that is worth exploring. And there's no need to go over there. It's just if someone's got a casual interest, instead of having to buy, some outrageous dumb thing, we're going to make a much smaller outrageous dumb thing that's affordable probably. And just as an example, so everybody can look it over our shoulder. So you come up with the thing, you give it the characteristic of being an NFT, and then you sell it, and then you just put it out there in the wild. It's just that because of the nature of it, you'll always be able to know who owns it and where it is in space, not necessarily whose drawer it's in, or which house it's in, but you'll know whose possession it's in on the web. From what I understand, and I'm just doing this from figuring that over the week or so also, so it's not like I'm an expert. Let's see, going back to comments. NFT is a digital object that you can never actually hold, I suppose. But that's like saying you'll never hold the receipt to your credit card. Who cares? Because you really wanted the thing, not the receipt to your credit card. But the NFT is just the characteristic of it that you'll never hold. But the NFT is also the reason why your thing that you bought will always have the value it has, because the internet remembers whose it is. I think if that's to make sense. And it's not so much that the internet remembers, it's just that the way that blockchain works is it's an aware code. I don't know how to describe it better than that. It keeps track though, so you don't have to. You're not depending on one hard drive failing and then who owned what? It's part of the blockchain. I still don't understand how an album works. Yeah, exactly. Like how records work, and then cassettes seem totally different, except kind of similar, and then CDs, and now MP3s. It's crazy. We just listen, right? No, so I don't know where you jumped in, but I don't know how to define the NFT other than what I've just done. It's a ability to assign a thing in a digital certificate, a circumstance online. And then with that, you have the ability to buy and sell it. So it's just it isn't a thing as much as a characteristic of a product or something. So no, you don't buy you buy the NFT, but you're buying what the NFT is associated with, or that. Just like with I guess a stock certificate, you're buying what the stock certificate is, not the piece of paper. So maybe I'm mixing it up that way. So can you define the NFT? It's not the paper, it's what the paper represents, and the paper isn't going to represent nothing to a fourth grader in kindergarten. That same piece of paper at a bank, who understands what's written on the paper, is going to treat it like $1 million. So I think that's a way of describing the NFT. It's just the digital version of all that. It's a thing that in the right hands, in the right place, it's your value, it's your thing. Everybody else is just some code. But we don't live in a world where people don't understand that stuff. So is it a stock that you hold interest in? It's a thing that you can own, and then the market that it's in determines its value. And like I said, I wish I had other people in here that were more familiar with it, and then would give me some direction in which ones to go look at. Some of the videos I looked at, again, were probably, if you think about it as a casino in the chips, or if you think about it as like a bank in the credit cards, the videos I seen were people that went like, I went to this bank and I got this credit card and this is how I used it, or I went to this casino and I cashed in on these chips and then this is how I used them. So most of the videos are about one aspect. And when you watch videos like that, you tend to think, oh, this is how it's done, when it's really just what they decided to do. So in other words, think about it. If someone were to get a credit card from a bank, that's the beginning of the story. But what are they going to do with that credit card? You could buy a car, you could buy a house, you could get in trouble, you could get ripped off, you could leave it laying on the ground, you could give it to somebody for charity. Like there's so many things you could do with a credit card that it's really difficult to say, what is a credit card, or how dangerous is a credit card? Well, now that credit cards are part of society, we can have that conversation. You both understand what I'm saying when I say it's difficult to say what a credit card is. That's what NFTs are. They're just this digital way of using the internet on the new internet a different way. And it's just the same way that a credit card's different than using a check, and a check is different than using cash, and cash is different than using casino tokens. They all have their appropriate place, right? If you took a check to a kindergartner, they're going to laugh at you and say, no, you can't have my gum. If you take that same check to a distributor who sells gum, they're going to give you a truckload of gum because it's a check for $1 million, and they're happy to give you, a truckload of gum for a value of $1 million. So is a check worthless? No. If you ask a kindergartner if a check is worthless, yes. If you ask someone who's never dealt with checks before, isn't a kindergartner, but a full adult, just never dealt with checks before, they may not understand it and say, oh, it's valueless to me. But again, you take that to the bank, they know what it is, they understand the value, it's got all the numbers and everything, so it's appropriate. You got $1 million. So that's what an NFT is, I think. So what determines, and I don't know if I'm speaking to the world, so this is tough. Usually if there's somebody else in here, I can gauge if my analogies are hitting home or whatever. So Tim was saying, what market or space determines the value of the NFT? That's the market, right? That's the other people in that realm. So like when Chris did the NFT of the magazine, okay? Was it the magazine? No. Was it the artwork? Not really. Was it the, entire company of Recoil? No, of course not, right? It wasn't any of those things. It was just the concept of the NFT. So in that case, I think you did a great job of making an NFT a magazine cover. So now I forgot how that worked. I think it was like the top 3. So there was one NFT that was the first one NFT that was the second one, and one NFT that was the third one. Again, if you think of why would you want to buy an electronic version of the magazine cover? Well, why would anybody want to change the color of their uniform in Halo, right? It's just because they wanted to. Now, if you want to change the color of your uniform in Halo and it's worth $1 to you, but somebody else has more money and they say it's worth $10 to them, is one of them wrong? No. Is the color worth $1 or $10, right? In that case, the market is set up so Halo decides it's worth $10 because that's how much it costs to run their system or something. In an NFT, you sell it, and then the value of it then becomes determined by whoever possesses it, just like other pieces of property. So if it's something that they can get another one of, it might not fluctuate very much. But if it's the only one of something, it might go up quite a bit. So that cover event of Recoil magazine, the NFT for that, I think Maj or somebody, whoever that other person is, bid $10,000 or something. So that one's worth $10,000 right now. The next one up, let's say it was 7,000, and then that third one, I forget what it was, let's say 1,000 or something. So that's what they cost now. The next time they sell, if someone comes along and says, hey, I need to own that, can I give you 12,000 for it? And they sell it, then it's worth 12,000. It's one of those kind of situations. So it's not like stocks or bonds where there's so many things selling that you can just tell you what the cost is now. And I don't think it's like art where there's very many comparables where they can say, oh, well, it's, another work of art by this artist sold for this much, and there's some reason to believe this one will be more or less. This is completely open, but that's because we're talking about the beginning outliers, people that are attempting to play with this system or, cut new ground with the system or whatever. So an NFT is just like a 66 vet VIN number 1. It's whatever 2 or more people are willing to pay, for sure. And if that NFT is on that vet, it's probably going to be worth more than if that NFT was on my, flat tire cop car, or if that NFT was on one of the Dukes of Hazzard cars, right? That NFT is just the way that you identify that particular car with a serial number, sort of, except it's way more than a serial number. But the NFT is just the function of that vet, tagging that vet with a certificate of authenticity. That's the Corvette. Now, in that case, you could tag it with a Corvette, so it's really easy to keep track of what the NFT is because it's that Corvette. In the world with like a house or a boat or something, it's real easy because it's the house or the boat. It's just a serial number for the boat. We don't go, what's that serial number made out of? Is it made out of sticker or is it made out of metal? Like, we don't care. There's a serial number on it. Everybody agrees that that's its serial number. So an NFT is just a version of an electric serial number that's just way more powerful. And it doesn't require like one company to say, oh yeah, that's the serial number. The whole world just knows by looking at it what the serial number, or that it's a legit serial number. So I think it's more like that. But now here's the question. Can you put two NFTs on a 66 Corvette, the same Corvette? I don't know. That's the kind of questions I haven't thought about or threshed out. So then a classic car will have a based value across the market if you're talking about a custom car. And I think it's also a factor of, let's say the 66 Corvette was on sale here in Arizona at that big auction. If they put an NFT on it, that means somebody can buy it with crypto from anywhere. So now they can say, oh, we got a bid in, X amount of dollars in crypto, and it sells, boom, it's sold in crypto. And now nobody had to go to a bank or nothing, as long as both parties are happy that the event, or that the sale can take place or whatever. At least that's how I understand it. So the NFT adds that characteristic that it's unique, but it also allows that unique thing to be bought and sold in that non-centralized crypto market. And that's part of it. Like if the firearms community didn't have credit cards, where would we be? If we were running around with cash all the time and, having to drive everywhere because we weren't going to ship anything. So we had to drive everywhere with cash. And then we were like, oh, I don't have exact change. I can't break a 20. So now we have to go to the bank and break a 20. Those were horrible times back in the day when everybody was walking around with cash only. You could only really buy what you had cash in your pocket for. Like, oh, I was planning on coming here and spending $60, but you had this awesome thing that cost $200. Let me go back to the bank. You know what I mean? Like, nobody lives in that life anymore, but that's the life we all grew up in. Like, if our parents took us to the gun shop and brought $40 with them, and there was something there that they wanted that cost $47, and they didn't have a great relationship with that gun shop, guess where your parents are going? To the bank to get $7 to buy that thing. So I think the concept is, we went to credit cards, and everybody, I remember credit cards being like, what? I'm not going to have credit cards in my store. I got to pay money to have a credit card machine, and only the snooty so-and-sos are going to be using it, and la. And then I've been in stores where it's like MasterCard. I'm not going to pay $25 a month or whatever it was, $250 a month for MasterCard. Those people are assholes. Or not MasterCard, whatever that one was. It was one of the credit cards that you had to pay extra money for. And all those people that came in, like, expected everyone to wait on them. And it was just a real pain in the ass. So there's always been hesitancy towards things. And this isn't the next guaranteed best investment. And that's the other problem, is there's so many people that give you that sell that, oh, this is all that's coming. This is what's next. So cash in now and you're going to make $1 million. I mean, that's possible, I suppose, but that's not what I'm trying to talk about. So then the start of this sounded very unstable, but I think it could balance out after it's rolling. Well, here's the thing. It's already been going. There's millions and millions of people that do it, and there's billions of dollars in cyber money. So now it's just a matter of, when industries are going to catch on. Obviously, the computer industry is probably the gaming industry, which is bigger than Hollywood. So once the gamers figure it out, and they're already comfortable with this whole idea of like spending money on nothing, like spending money on changing the color of a character, or even spending money to have your character be stronger or bigger or better or something. People pay for that. They don't think twice. Oh, I got to buy extra mushrooms in my game. No problem. Ding, 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 ding. Here's $50 in real money that now is a bunch of stars on the screen, so that I don't know what enjoyment they get out of that. They get out of, right? Some people are into that. They don't even think twice about that. So that concept of it, the part about the tangible part and the part about it being associated with, some of that's going to not even be a concept for these people. They've never lived a life of just cash and then went to credit cards and then went to using credit cards over the telephone and then went to using credit cards online and then went to using credit cards in their smartphones. Like, that's a process that they grew up with smartphones, and now they're wondering why adults haven't made it where Amazon can deliver stuff in drones yet. They're just living in a different world. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of who will use it first, and then some banks will incorporate it, and then it'll be, do you want to get paid in cyber or regular? Now, I think banks don't like it. Banks don't dig it because they're not involved in the whole thing. So it's one of those kind of things. And then you get a lot of the what do you call them, aluminum hat types that like to dig into that angle, that, you know, this is the way to get rid of banks, or this is the way you don't need banks. But more than likely the banks will figure out ways to grab onto this stuff, and, you know, it'll just, there's no way that people are going to want to do this kind of thing unless it's just as easy as a credit card, and that'll require some institution just to get the stuff out there, you would think. So we'll see how it works out. But I don't think it's unstable at all. There's a couple of issues with costs and sustainability, but those are issues that seem to be soon to be dealt with through technology. At least, again, if you listen to the people who are cautiously optimistic, seem like rationally optimistic about the future, it's just a matter of time before they tackle some of the technical hurdles that have given this pause as it's growing, and then it'll just be a issue with how the banks and markets and stuff deal with it or not. All right, so any other specific ones? This is already longer than I wanted. I really just expected to go on and give a synopsis of the whole thing, but it turned into more of a Q&A, which is fine. But I just don't know how useful it is since I'm not an expert. I just was surprised to discover how relatively simple it was, the concept of it, and everything I had seen, every attempt I'd seen to explain these things got overly complicated. And I'm hoping to go the other approach, that just ignore the complicated part. Who really cares? We don't care how PayPal works. We don't care how our credit card works. What we care about is, you know, what it costs and how easy it is to use and who else is using it and that kind of thing. And that's what I'm trying to offer, is that kind of perspective on it. All right. Well, again, I wish I would have had a couple of other folks in here. I've had people, mainly I'm also interested in people that were bugging me to do an NFT ever since Chris's thing and his tour going around talking about NFTs. You know, it's been on people's minds, and either from my comments or I guess maybe just out of nowhere, I don't know. I've had about 10 comments already though on different platforms and places where people have said stuff like, oh, you should have an NFT, or what are you going to do for an NFT? And that made me wonder, because I didn't know what an NFT was. Like, number one, why are they asking me this? And two, what would I make an NFT of, right? Because I'm usually thinking art, and I don't know what the hell art I would use. But so that's one of the things is we'll leave this on, is if they're a Patreon or somebody that's interested in what we're doing, if you've got ideas on what to make an NFT of, then that's will be, you know, we'll take those into consideration and come up with something. If there's absolutely no trying to, no one else interested in this thing, then I don't care. I'm not trying to push nothing. I just thought it'd be interesting to do one that's open instead of some sort of prepackaged deal that you know might raise an eyebrow for. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Why don't we just get rid of this guy then? So, like I say, I just thought it would be neat once I figured out that all you really need to do is go over and set one up. So it's really as simple. You can definitely go check out how to set one up. It's just that you got to listen to a bunch of even clumsier than this people who followed the process, just refollow the process. Trying to understand the process is a little tougher. But for the most part, you go in there and you take your item, a digital file or whatever, some sort, and you wrap this NFT around it. And I don't want to try to explain, because I don't want to say I'm 100% comfortable explaining it, but I understand that it's new tech. But the way that the technology wraps that thing, that NFT assigns the NFT to the item, or however you want to say it, it gets minted, is another way to say it, I guess. Like the way that it incorporates itself into the system costs something. It costs something to use that time or to get the slot, or however you want to say it. And that is a fluctuating cost. Now, some of the videos you watch, people are just doing it in real time, and they're like, here you go. And it costs $8 to have this thing done. And if I go over here, it'll cost $6. And if I go over there, it'll cost $12. And then they go on and make one, and then they show you how it's made. There you go. Now you got an NFT, right? And then you throw it into a market, or you throw it into an auction, or you do whatever you're going to do with it. Now, if you went to do it today, like today, 2021, today, it's probably like $160 to make one. And if you go over here, it's 120. And if you go over here, it's 180. So it's not quite a casual purchase. So I'm not just buying one. I got no interest in them necessarily, except to use it as an example. But I did have some people say, oh, you should make an NFT. And if those people are, $100 don't mean nothing to them and they want one, then I'll make one. Just as an example. Now there's definitely like movie stars or artists or something that they'll make one, and then they got enough people who are interested in what they're doing that they'll get, tons of people to bid on it, and it'll turn into a big spectacular thing that raises a bunch of money. Or you get somebody like Chris who's got the ear of the community and a bunch of people that are interested in seeing one of the first things in our market or our niche go into NFT. So you had some extra attention on something and being one of the first, and it got a lot of attention and got a lot, but there's nobody's going to suggest that, or very few are going to suggest that all NFTs have that potential or anything. It's just that if you're going to dabble with the first purchases on a credit card, there's got to be something you purchase, right? When you're explaining to people that first time how you can use a credit card online, there needs to be something you purchase, and that's sort of like what we're going to do, is just have something up there. And since there's only a few people that are even interested in this, we're going to let them decide, if they will tell us, what they'd like it to be. We'll take that, we'll put it up there, we'll show you how it gets put up there and the cost today, because the cost will change all the time. And the way I understand it too is depending on where you have it built, you can set like a range. Like I'm willing to pay 80, so just wait until it costs 80. Or if I want it done right now, it'll cost 100. It's one of those kind of things, because the price fluctuates. You don't have to do it immediately. You can say, set this up and wait until it comes down to this price. And it has to do with the way that this stuff works. Again, that flock of birds instead of one airplane. If you want to send something from here to there on an airplane, you just have to pay the person, and then they decide if it fits on the airplane, and they send it and goes in the airplane and comes out the airplane. Pretty much what we're used to. If you wanted to send something with a flock of birds and make sure that it gets there, you have to do it differently. And I think the way they do it is they chop it into like 700 pieces, and then maybe they chop it into 8 pieces, and then they copy that into 32 pieces, and then they give each bird a strategic number of pieces so that they can both carry it and reassemble on the other side with very little degradation. I don't know if they kept up with that, but I think that's the concept. So because it's a more complicated process, you don't just grab a slot on an airplane and wait for the plane to arrive. Instead, you say, well, wait till the flock of birds is willing to do this for $10 instead of right now where it would cost $30 for the flock of birds to do it. And there's just stuff that always watches the flock of birds and goes, well, they're pretty busy right now. So if you want to do it right now, they got to push some other stuff out of the way, and that will cost $100. But if you can wait till this afternoon when they're not doing anything, it'll be $30. Or if you wait till the next time they're not doing anything, it'll be $100 or it'll be $10. Anyway, it's something like that. And because it's complicated and new and that, there's not just one place to do it. There's multiple ways to do it. What we'll do is see if we get some assistance or some insight from people who have already done it, and then we'll weigh our options and follow through. If that happens and somebody buys one, then we'll show you what it looked like and what it was like, and that'll be our first one. And if that works and everybody's interested, we'll do a second one that has no cost really, or it costs like $5 or $10 or something, and we'll set that one up so that every time it sells or every time it moves from owner to owner, the thing will kick 20%. You can set it up for different percentages. And we want to show you with that one that there's ways potentially for creative ways to use these things. And, maybe it'll be the person gets to decide who the person of the day is in the chat or something, or they get to decide the topic of the day or something like that. We want to make it where that gives them some, what's the word? Like some kind of influence into what we're doing on the show, so that there's a reason to keep passing it around. And we might have even a couple of those. And then because they're individual, we could say one determines the outro music, and one of them determines the topic of the day, and one of them determines something. And then the audience can have fun buying and selling it amongst themselves. And again, that's just an effort to play with the NFT in a different way than what everybody else is doing, which is just making these investments and then urging you to buy their investments. We're going to play around with it and try to use it in a more interesting way, so that we can hopefully get people up there comfortable with crypto, get people into the market. Not so much that you have to invest anything or do anything. We try to do this on the very cheap if we can, but so that we're just comfortable with it and we're not scared of this whole concept of decentralized currencies and things, so that as people are talking about it and gun shops start to bring it in, we're there waiting for them and we're not following behind. If you're interested. If you're not, there's plenty of other things you can do, I'm sure. So with that, I think I'll wrap it up. That's about an hour. Let's see what kind of comments we got coming in. Let's see. I see NFT as digital art. It's worth something if someone wants to buy it. If it's attached to art, for sure, yeah. But if it's attached to a house, it's definitely worth what people are going to buy it, right? Probably worth what the neighborhood is worth. Is it cheap to create? No. It can be. It was like a year or two ago, but now it can cost, well, it depends. If you watch a video right now, it'll be like $100, 180, 130. It's like, it's really not cheap at all. I guess if the thing costs $2,000 and it's $130 to create it, then it's not a big deal. But if the thing costs $5 and it's $100 to create it, well, that's ridiculous, right? And you make them and buy them and sell them on markets, on these little applications out there. And it's just like a website. There's nothing fancy. It's just a, if you wanted to put something on the internet and sell it with PayPal, there's about 800 different ways you could do that. Sort of the same way here. There's multiple ways. If you watch 10 videos on how to make an NFT, you're probably going to see 8 different ways to do it, because there's so many different ways. In fact, if you just wanted to learn 1 or 2 ways, you'd probably have to dig around, because there's so many different ways. Nobody really does it the same way, or not everyone's doing it the very same way yet. What did G23 say? Oh, I don't know why you're asking New York. So someone who is into photography, it's also a way they can sell their photo to a magazine. I would imagine, yeah, you could probably have, like, let's say you're going to put your magazines online anyway, or you have them online anyway, your photographs, I should say, online anyway. Having an NFT is just a type of a cart, I suppose. It's just a way, if the magazine was working with cyber, they could say, hey, here's a portion of a coin or whatever. I think the way it is now is there's some coins that are worth so much that you buy little fractions of coins. So now you can be like, I'll buy 8 of these, which is really 1/10 of those or something. It's complicated, or it's intricate or whatever. But yeah, I think so. All right. So again, it's about an hour and an effort to chat about NFTs. Hopefully it worked to, or it was useful to let folks know a little insight into them, make them a little less confusing, or whatever that word is. And yeah, so if you're interested in looking it up or digging into it, let me know. I'm more than happy to set one up. Like I say, I'm really not all that ambitious to do it. I don't have $160 or $110 or however much it costs to set one up. So I won't be doing it until somebody who's out there said I should, follows through and says they'd be interested in it. Then we'll be more than happy to set one up. I'd actually like to set up 2 of them like that and go forward from there. So until then, you're not going to hear nothing else about it. I really got no interest. I tried to bring a couple of people in who might be interested. They seem to be interested in them, but whatever, if they want to follow up and do something later, we could. Otherwise, yeah, NFTs are a thing. You're probably going to continue to see decentralized money come up over and over, the same way we saw, every other thing that we're familiar with now as a common thing kind of hit the scene. So we'll see. With that, I will click one of these, and then we'll click down to here, and Smeggy's out there this time, so we'll see. Thank you for supporting our projects. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, check out our Patreon channel.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thank you for watching gunwebsites.com.